Good afternoon, welcome, and thank you for joining this talk for the next hour or so, called "In the Face of Daily Stressors." And thank you to the Meditation Personal Development Centre in Bradford for inviting me. My name is Margaret Barron, and I have been studying Raj Yoga as taught by the Brahma Kumaris for, I think in a couple of weeks it'll be 30 years. And so obviously in that time, learned many things. And this session today is to share some of those thoughts that I've learned along the way, or the experiences I've learned along the way regarding this topic, in the face of daily stressors. And interestingly, I had written in my diary that I was going to be doing this talk. It was there, you know, the time, the date, the time was there, but I hadn't put the title. And I kept saying to myself, I must go online and put the title in, because then once you've got the title, it's almost like it stimulates you to kind of think of your experiences that you've had around that title, and what would be a good way of using the time to share something that hopefully will be useful to you. So I'm based in London, and I'm working, helping at the International Centre in Ilston, London. And when I came home, I was thinking, I didn't look at the topic, and so that's a priority for tomorrow. And then up until sort of Wednesday, my life was going along sort of quite well. I was dealing with some quite major things in my life, people around me, but it all seemed to be going well. And then on Wednesday, it was almost like, I don't know what the feeling really, to sum it up, but it's almost like you're not quite aligned with yourself and life, and all is almost like you're tripping over yourself, and getting a bit stressy about things. And when I got home, I thought, I haven't looked at the title, and so I got out my laptop and opened it up, and there, what was the title? In the Face of Daily Stressors. And I thought, well, my research has been done today. So and in some ways it was really good, because when you're going through a phase where everything's seemingly going all right, you think it's all so easy. And probably if I hadn't had Wednesday, I might have come on this talk and told you that it's all so easy. But having had Wednesday, maybe I'm going to be a bit more real in what I share with you, because and to be able to give this disclaimer that I'm not there yet. Certainly well on the journey, and I've learned a lot over the last 30 years from life experience, and what I've learned through the wisdom that's come through the study of Raj Yoga meditation. But there's still times when you, as I said, you feel kind of misaligned with it. So just as, I don't know if you saw the picture that went with this this topic, the online picture, and it was, and you might have seen the holding slide when you came on, and it's a picture of a person, and he's got post-it stickers all over him. And what's kind of helpful about that picture is that they're all kind of quite everyday little things. Go to the dentist, you pick the children up from school. It is all the basic things. Remember to pick up peas on the way home. It's all the little things. But what it shows in that picture is that they're layered on top of one another. And I think when we don't just get stressed, it's a kind of layering process. Maybe things are starting to layer up, and maybe you weren't even aware that they're starting to layer up, and suddenly you get to that point where that phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back. Now we know a straw is so light, it is not going to break a camel's back, is it? But it's almost like there's so many other things going on, and eventually there's this one thing, and you react. And it's when you react that things are not quite right, and that reaction may not be a full-blown, explosion, but it may be your tone of voice is really not right, or you become a bit controlling in your manner, or you've something little really upsets you. Many things can show. The reaction may come out towards someone else, or it may be that it kind of goes in towards yourself, and you just don't generally feel good about yourself. So this is what I saw on Wednesday. So I could see when I look back at Wednesday that there is a kind of layered experience, and probably one of the things is that, I have a mother who's in hospital. It's not in the same town. It's quite a distance away, and I can't just go visit in a day, really. So it means going and staying, and that's fine. That is fine. But there's, the mother is elderly now, and there's more complications, and there's a family around. There's lots of things around it, and now it's looking at discharge. Is it going to be a safe discharge, and how do you make it a safe discharge, and how much in can you be? And there was a kind of feeling that, I was in London, I was trying to sort things out, that in case I suddenly have to go, there's things in place, which are not complete yet. I'm still working on them, but so there is this kind of underlying current there, and so then I'm trying to work to get that done. And then there's always emails coming in, there's people coming, and it might seem in your mind you've got like a real focus, you want to get on with something, someone's coming and maybe they're repeating themselves about something, and in your little world that seems kind of minor, and it's all building a layer, and it's going to be something really maybe even quite trivial that that kind of sets you off in a way. And for me it was, it might be something about your laundry, that I live in a house where there's 8 people, and so we have kind of laundry slots, and then that it's almost like someone wants to take your laundry slot, and for you that's the only time I can do it. And as soon as you say my laundry slot, of course you're going to crash. So what I'm trying to say here, it isn't usually one thing. We normally cope with the bigger things in life, but it's this layered, lots of different experience. And I could see on Wednesday, and I was trying to stop myself doing it, but I could see myself starting to multitask. And of course, if you go back 20, 30 years ago, this was considered a great thing, to be able to multitask, do a bit of this, do a bit of that, and they used to show pictures, didn't they? Or someone got a phone here, and they're half eating a sandwich, and they're holding a baby and stirring a pot. And, it was the kind of, it was like this superpower person. And my thoughts are that multitasking just completely fragments your mind. It's like your mind, rather than become focused, becomes dissipated into many different directions, and that is really quite a big cause of stress. And I even got up from the desk, and I went and I sat in a meditation, and there was commentaries going, and I could see that normally I would really click into it, but I could see on that day it was almost like the message was trying to get through, be peaceful, be peaceful. And it was almost like there was these layers it was trying to get through. And after sitting, for about 40 minutes, I did feel better. But then I went back and I started multitasking again. So it was really the feeling of being out of sync with myself. And then the next day, this, when I started looking at what had happened, actually a lot of clarity came in, and that's what I hope to share with you today. So looking at the title, In the Face of Daily Stressors, and it can feel like it's in your face. Life becomes in your face, and many things are coming at you, and there's a point where you're starting not to handle it well. and you can, and the thing is, I guess the thing is to catch it early when you start to not want to engage with someone, or you start to hear it in the tone of your voice, or you can see yourself starting to rush, or you can see yourself trying to do lots of things at once. These are signals you're off track. You're completely off track, because there's a big difference between when you're doing something with a kind of stressy vibration, and when you're doing something with a really calm and focused vibration. And what we're learning here is that it's all going to work out better if you're doing it with a calm and focused vibration than if you're, you know, that force of trying to get it all done, the tick list consciousness, we call it. And it doesn't fulfill you. You'll end up feeling very unsatisfied, and that dissatisfaction is a big part of the stress. And you won't achieve as much as if you know, did it really calmly and coolly and in a kind of methodical, focused way. So I wanted to take this word face, F-A-C-E, and use this as an acronym to look at what we could do when we're in those situations, or what happens in these situations. And I thought that the F would be friend. You know, how much am I a friend to myself? How much is my self-talk supporting me, or am I my own foe, you know, where I'm criticizing myself, putting myself down? Because usually when you get to the point where you're feeling a bit stressed, if you analyze what you're telling yourself about yourself, I've got to get this done, I don't want to talk to that person, they take too long to answer things. If you look at your self-talk to yourself about yourself, your self-talk to yourself about others, and your self-talk about the situation or what's in front of you, and it, you know, as it put on those post-it stickers, these are not big things that we're dealing with, it's daily things. And there's part of us sort of saying, you should be able to cope with this, you should be able to manage this, you should be like a superhuman being that can hold it all together. And these kinds of thoughts are totally unfriendly to yourself. Like becoming your own enemy. So, and in a way, the same thing is, however you're talking to yourself, in a way represents how you see life. So do you see life as friendly, and that good things happen in life, and lots of things support you in life? Because if each of us look at our life, there's so much supporting us. You know, sometimes I think about the elements, and I think about the earth, and I think, wow, you know, I've never been in an earthquake zone. The earth has always supported me under my feet. It's provided the area where things grow, the food that I eat. You know, it's really amazing when you think of the earth element. And then you think of, you know, the water element, and how it provides hot water, cool water, for cleansing yourself, for, you know, drinks, and, you know, the rain provides, you know, makes things grow. And, you know, then you think of the fire element, and electricity, and heat, and warmth, and all the things that the sun, and how good we feel in the sun. And, you know, then if you think of the wind, and I'm a great lover of the wind, you know, as soon as I go into a room, I open a window. You know, how the wind cools you down, you know, how it helps in the whole food production. It blows food around, you know, seeds around, all sorts of things the wind does. And, you know, even, and of course, ether. And if you look at one thing in your life that you're doing, you know, maybe there's, you know, like a hot drink, hot tea or something, all the elements have worked together for you to be able to have that hot drink. And sometimes we're in complete oblivion to this and not appreciating. So, you know, and and yet there's so much in our life supporting us. And this goes back to, you know, do I see the world as friendly? You know, because a friend supports you, and the whole planet is doing its best to support us. But, you know, we have not treated the planet right. And we've been greedy, and we've wanted, and we've taken, and now it's kind of readdressing that. So, but how do you see life? Do you see it as a support system for yourself, a beautiful, wonderful support system, or do you feel threatened by life? Sorry, this keeps falling out. Or do you feel threatened by life, that it's up against you and it's too challenging, and it's almost like that perception of is life your friend or your foe, your enemy? But is your own mind your friend and your foe? You know, and really what happens in your own mind is really going to determine what you feel. So if you go into life and you're feeling that, you know, life is my friend and it's supporting me and it's helping me move forward, it's a very, very different approach, and you're going to experience different things. So up until Wednesday, I was very much in that in that feeling of life is really good, it's so supportive, it's so wonderful. But maybe I had to have Wednesday to be able to share with you that it isn't. We sometimes we get out of that groove, we get out of that sync, and we let other thoughts overtake us, and then lots of other things. So yes, so a lot of how life will be is the self-talk, to really look and watch what thoughts are you using to either uplift yourself, or are they destructive, or are they putting you down? Is there, and if you catch a thought where you've got to throw it out, it's not true. So we have to learn to become our own friend, and that will show up in your self-talk. So really to take time out and watch, and in a way this is what meditation is. It's like you're watching, what am I telling myself, and let me change it, let me create something in my mind that's really beautiful and lovely and sustaining and uplifting, and that gives me strength. And then if I was going to take the A, it would have to be acceptance, or part of it would have to be acceptance, because, you know, as soon as we have any resistance to anything in life, it's the resistance that's causing the stress. Now, we've all had days where lots happened and we enjoyed it. You know, oh, it was really fun. You got things, you achieved things. You weren't necessarily multitasking, but you got things done in a very kind of dignified way, and it felt good because your attitude was good. And because your overall maybe self-talk was good, your attitude to life was good, then even if someone comes up and says, you know, can you help me with this? You can just accept it and incorporate it, and you're willing to help. So again, there's this phrase, you know, that comes, if you want something done, ask a busy man. It seems kind of paradoxical, isn't it? If you want something done, ask a busy man, because someone who's in that kind of flow and they, you know, they're okay with their capacity, can probably easily fit something in. But when you're kind of against yourself internally, then it's just, you're going to slip into the straw that broke the camel's back. It's going to be too much. And you'll be even saying to yourself, I hope no one asks me to do anything else. And of course, it's a recipe for disaster, because life is life. Life is changing. Life brings, you know, new experiences. If we don't try new things, if we don't cooperate with people, we kind of become a bit isolated in ourselves and very egocentric. And life is about giving and sharing and enjoying and helping others. So when we slip into, it's all about me and getting my bit done. It's a kind of taking. And when we're supporting ourselves and we're creating beautiful thoughts in our mind, that energy supports us, but it also ripples out, and we've got this capacity to really help others. And really, I would say life is about giving, and enjoying the giving, and enjoying sharing. It's about enjoying sharing a very beautiful vibration while you get things done. So life is not about getting things done. Life is about the energy that you're emitting as you move through life, and things are happening. Things are getting done, but it's not about getting the things done. And when we slip into it's about getting the things done, that's when it's going to become stressful. But when we can hold that enthusiasm for life, when we can accept and enjoy it, when we like new experiences, when we start seeing how life cooperates with us, how others bring in their flavor to something, life is very beautiful, but we have to see it like that. So, and of course, appreciate, if there was no challenges in life, we wouldn't grow. And we need challenges and little tests and situations to help us grow, to bring out the best in us. And, I've had many experiences. I had quite a big experience last January looking after a nephew who has had meningitis when he was a baby and multiple complications, but a lovely, lovely soul. But there was a point where he needed a lot of kind of care, and the situation made it that I was involved in that. And, but I saw how that situation really opened my heart. And, looking back, I really appreciate that situation now, and the privilege of it, and the people I met on the way, in the hospital, in the care homes, in all the, it was a journey that we had to go through. And other siblings were involved, but the joy of the whole thing, when I look back and I really appreciate the experience and how it expanded me. There was tough moments for sure, and I was in it not really knowing the outcome at all, but it's ended up a really lovely outcome. He's in a place where he's really happy and very well loved, and it's so much a feeling of honor to have been part of that. I would put in my whole life, I would think that was a real prime time. But yes, it tested me, challenged me, because sometimes I had to give up not eating, not sleeping, whatever, because the needs were quite intense. But now I look back and I'm so appreciative of having had that opportunity, because it made me a different person. It brought out a good, really good side of myself, and it was nice to see that. So so the A would be accept what's going on, and don't go into resistance of it. As soon as we resist, when they say it persists, but somehow the acceptance allows your heart to grow, open. And I remember talking to a GP who was retiring, and I asked him, what was the main thing you learned from your time as a GP? And he talked about acceptance. He said, even if people are really, really sick, the moment they accept their condition, they will start to heal. Now, healing doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get completely better, but there's a healing process that happens. They may even have to pass on, but there's a healing process that happens that comes from the acceptance. But when someone's in resistance and they're saying, why is this happening to me? And it shouldn't be happening to me. And he says that energy is more destructive, and definitely can see that. So that would be my A. So, and then the C would be two things. One is about consciousness. It's all about the consciousness that you hold. And in the study of Raj Yoga, really the fundamental thing is the primary thing is your consciousness. Life is a result of your consciousness. So in the days before Wednesday, when I was feeling light and easy, everything seemed light and easy. And of course, then, you know, we have these days where maybe, you know, it's a bit like they talk about you got out the wrong side of bed. Well, I only get out one side of bed because my bed's up against the wall on one side, but it's a feeling, isn't it? You're not quite in sync for whatever reason. And then your consciousness starts to slip away from some feeling the good qualities, and you're linking into, again, the tick list, what have I got to get done? And in a way, if we look at these words that we know so well, human being, and, you know, when you're slipping into the task, it's kind of the human bit. It's, you know, I've got to get this done. How am I going to get it done? When am I going to get it done? Might be even who's going to help me get it done. And we kind of lose access at that time to the being side. And the being side is the very beautiful feelings, you know, the feelings of peace, the feelings of love, the feelings of joy. And what we're learning in Raj Yoga is to bring the being into the human experience. The human experience on its own it's just a functional thing. It's almost like you're just functioning in life, and it can feel really lacking in joy and purpose. But if we think about life is to bring your beingness and your special combination of beingness into the human experience. Life is not about your tick list. Life is about what are you experiencing as you're moving through life. And as you move through life, that will include many different activities that you get involved in. And I remember a little situation, just to give you an example. I worked in this office, and I only worked there 1 or 2 days a week. And when I went in, I would say, you know, does anyone want a drink, hot drink? And there was always one who said, oh yeah, I'll have one. And then there was another who said, no, I don't want any. And that was okay. I didn't really think about it. And the one who he said, oh, thank you, Margaret. It always starts my day off well. And then there was one day when I was in the office, came into the office, and only the one who normally doesn't want the hot drink was there. It was just me. And I still put my head around the door, and I said, you know, would you like a hot drink? And he said, yes, I would today. So I went into the kitchen and I started making him a coffee. And as I was making the coffee, I really went into a very deep peace. And I'm, you know, as I was making the drink, I was really conscious of being peaceful and doing it in a really loving way. And then I just went in, knocked on the door, and went and put it on his desk. And I didn't think anything else of it. And then after a little bit, he just, it was almost like out of character for him. He came and he put his head around the door. He said, Margaret, you make a really good cup of coffee. And it was so interesting because it wasn't about the coffee. It's about the energy that's gone into it. And this is the same for all of our life. It's not what we get done. It's the energy we bring into what we get done. And we see this, you know, if you go out for a walk and you see someone's garden and they planted lovely flowers, you can feel the energy of care and joy that they put into sowing the seeds and nurturing the garden. Yes, the garden's very pretty, but you can feel behind that the love that they put in. And that is the same for any task. I remember another thing that stands up in my mind. I remember I was walking through the International Centre, and it was probably about 9:15 at night. And I just finished up some work. Probably at that time I was stuck in my to-do list. And as I walked through, I saw someone who was just mopping a floor. And it was almost like the way they were doing it was a bit like Tai Chi in a way, with this mop. And I just stood and watched from it. They never saw me, but I knew that they were in a very high state of consciousness, and I could feel that they were doing that act out of love for God. I could feel it. And it was, yes, I'd heard many lectures in my life, but I saw it and I just think, oh, wow, imagine if I did every action in a high consciousness out of love for God. And this is what we're currently being trained to do. And I could just feel it in the atmosphere, the energy. So, and I've never forgotten it. So, it's not about the task just mopping the floor, but the energy that was all around that task was amazing. Imagine that's creating an atmosphere that others pick up. So the next morning, someone come in and they may pick up that energy. To them, they don't know it's about someone sweeping the floor or mopping the floor, but they pick up an energy that helps them. And so as we go about our daily life, how much energy am I emitting that's putting something beautiful into the atmosphere? This is the difference. So it's ultimately your life is about your consciousness. Very connected to the first one, F, friendly or foe. Am I coming from love or fear? Love or fear. So it's all about consciousness, and consciousness, what we bring into our life. And probably one of the most beautiful feelings that we can bring is when we feel content inside. When we feel content inside, it produces such a lovely energy, because contentment is always almost made up of a little bit of peace, a little bit of love, and a little bit of happiness. And the mixture makes contentment. And when that contentment is coming from inside, not contentment because everything outside is okay, but it's just coming from the love of being alive, the joy of being alive, the self-respect that we've nurtured over time, and we are content with ourselves. Maybe that's the part of, we've made peace with our past. We feel that we're doing something in the present that's uplifting us. And as a result of that, we know our future will be good. Your future is based on your presence. So whatever your past was, if you change what's happening in the present, you can build a very beautiful future. So we're not chained to our past. We can become at peace with our past. We can build, create beautiful feelings in the present moment, and that will bring a better future for us. So consciousness and contentment. And one of the things that someone's already started to put things in the chat, and I will take up questions, but anyone else wanted to, they're mentioned about they're saying, yes, they can relate to this, cared for the mother for 15 years in her home. That is amazing. And was constantly multitasking with virtually no respite, constant stress. And yes, thank you for sharing that. That is, like, you can see how it is. And, maybe today with the wisdom, if you could go back, you would change that. You would know now to do it differently. And, but yes, I do understand that can be stressful. So there is a story I just share here about consciousness. And it's about two monks. You may have heard this story before, but I think it really does show us consciousness. So there's two monks were walking along a side of a river, and they came to a bit where they're meant to be crossing over, but there had been a flood in the river. And, the only way to get across would be to walk through the water. And on the side of the bank was a lady, and she was stuck there and didn't know how to cross. And the monk just, picked up the lady and walked across and put her on the other side and went off in his way. And the younger monk kind of waded through the water. And as they were on the other side, the younger monk was going, thoughts were starting to come in his head. And like, I don't know how that senior monk did that, because we're not even meant to look at a woman, let alone touch a woman. And he was going through all this thing of the wrongness of the act that the other monk had done. And in the end, he was about to burst. And he said, to the other monk, he said, was that really a right action that you did? And it kind of goes against our disciplines. And the more senior monk said, I put that lady on the side of the bank. You're still carrying that. And of course, the older monk was like, just responding at a time of need, didn't really give it much thought, just did what was needed, finish. And the other monk, it's all the whirly thoughts in the head. And of course, it's the whirly thoughts in the head that causes the stress. It's not really any task that ever's going to cause you stress. It's the whirly thoughts that you're having about the task that's going to cause you stress, or the situation. It's the thought patterns that stress us out. We think it's too much, we're overwhelmed, no one's helping me, I've got too much, please don't ask me to do anything else. It's the thought pattern and the attitude that we're carrying, not the task that's making us feel stressed. So we have to be really clear about this, so that if we do get into the point, like it happened to me on Wednesday, that you are feeling stressed, you need to take a step back, really take a step back and say, this is not about the amount that's on my desk. It's about my attitude and what I'm feeling about myself. And that leads me to the E, which would be, I would have to put that as empowerment. I think there was a while ago that I realized life is not about life improvement. It's about self-empowerment. Or we could say, if we're looking at the words human being, it's about that being empowered. And the more that being is empowered, that's what's going to make the difference. It's not about improving the whole human thing, a nicer couch, acquiring more things. It's not about that. It's about, and we could spend our whole life doing the kind of human improvement. It's about being improvement, and maybe that being, we could give it another word, soul empowerment. So and we have invested a lot in human improvement, but when you look at the world, something's not quite right. It's gone a bit out of balance, and that's because we've missed out the looking at the being and empowering that. So in order to empower that, you have to give time. You have to give time to yourself to go in and experience the peace that is within you, behind the kind of the chattering mind, and experience it, to experience your own love for yourself, and that natural love that comes from feeling good about yourself. And the happiness that's based on, really the happiness based on being alive, not because I'm going to this event or nice people are coming to visit me tomorrow, or the happiness that's based on the joy of your beingness, really. And in order to really experience that, we need to see that the being is eternal. The human experience comes and goes. Situations will come, they will go, but the being is the eternal power. And that's why when that becomes empowered, it sustains us in all different aspects of the human experience. And I guess for myself, I would have to say that really the connection with the inner being has probably been the most profound thing in my life, learning to connect with myself and seeing that that is the true reality, not just Margaret. Margaret's just almost a bit like a character. And behind that, we could say the being or the spirit, the true self, the soul, is the eternal part of the self. It's almost like the light of the self, the aliveness of the self, the presence, your own presence, the aliveness of you is your beingness. And that is eternal. And when we tap into that, it also allows us to tap into the divine. That being, again, we could say maybe a supreme being is quite a nice way of putting it. A supreme being who's always emanating the highest energy of pure peace, pure love, pure joy, or greater than joy, maybe bliss, wisdom. And as we tap into ourselves and tap into the supreme being, it is a highly empowering experience then that allows us to move through the human experience in a much nicer way. And if I look back to Wednesday, I think that the first meditation I had in the morning, I wasn't quite linked in. Wasn't in the way that I normally linked in, and maybe because, I was already my mind was starting to wander to maybe the things I had to do, or my mother not being well, or whatever it is. And so I'd lost that deep connection of myself as the being with the supreme being. And there's been a lot of experience in life, but when that connection is there and you feel the energy of that connection, even the most challenging situations become so manageable. But when that isn't there, when you've lost connection with yourself, and you've lost, you're cut off basically from anything higher. So you're not in touch with your own qualities. You're not in touch with anything higher. And all you're left with is the human experience. And the human experience at the current time can be quite stressful without that other dimension behind it. So yes, that I think I can really stop there. So in summary, really, I think when we put as the primary thing in our life to support the inner experience, and we give time to empower that inner experience, and the beauty of that, the peace, the love, because peace is peace, but when that comes out, calmness and tranquility, serenity. Love is like the inner experience, but that comes out as kindness, caring, friendly, accepting, compassion, empathy. The expression of these qualities are so beautiful, and life becomes so much more rich when you are expressing those. Joy is the inner state, the inner quality, but that comes out as enthusiasm and motivation, and good humor, and jolliness, cheerfulness comes out as these lovely qualities. And so it's this energy that's emanating that's going to make the difference in your life. But if we lose the connection with ourselves and the way to create and sustain that energy, and we lose that higher connection, or not making any effort to make that higher connection, then it will only become about the human experience, and that at the current time can be highly stressful. So it's kind of, it's almost like step back, go inside, connect up, and then come out, a bit like a triangle: in, up, and then out. Otherwise it's just out. It's not so easy. So leading up to Wednesday, I was up and out, and then Wednesday somehow I was just going out, and the difference was like night and day. So I think it happened so that I could share with you in a kind of real way today. So I think because otherwise our life becomes about the tasks and the events. If we're not kind of nurturing some kind of inner experience, then it all becomes about what I've got to do and what can I escape into. And when we're empowered, it's more about just the joy of being alive. That becomes the, whatever you're going to do, wherever you're going to go, doesn't really matter. It's just the joy of being alive and the privilege of being alive. So I'll leave it there, and I think the other Margaret's gonna come on and manage the chat.
Well, thank you, Margaret. We have one question, actually two. When situation has overwhelmed, my mind is racing. How do you apply the break at that moment?
Yeah, it's you need a little bit of wisdom. There's two things. You always need a bit of wisdom, and the wisdom is that it's not the situation that's overwhelmed you. It's your thoughts about the situation that are overwhelming you. So you always need to bring a little bit of wisdom into the situation. And I think when your mind is feeling overwhelmed, you need to take time out. It's like maybe go for a walk is a really good way. Nature, because nature, generally, I know nature can be fierce as well, but generally nature is calming, and just the greenness of nature and the colors of nature, they help soothe. They help get us back in alignment. And so even just a walk in nature and noticing things can take you away from thinking about the situation that's overwhelming you. Yes, if you just to stop, maybe just go get yourself a drink, do something nice for yourself, relax a little bit, do something that relaxes you. Sometimes even just sitting down somewhere and maybe distracting yourself by reading something else, reading something positive, whatever. So it's like putting, what you're trying to do is it's changing your thoughts. But if you sit there and you start changing, I'm going to change my thought, not so easy, because if you've got to overwhelmed, there's a real power in it. So sometimes to sit and meditate will be too hard. You'll just be thinking more about the things that overwhelm you. So that's why, do something else. Maybe go water your plants in your house, or go for a walk, or walk into your garden, or go for a little bit and do something that you really like. I know it's amazing, but ironing really helps me. And I think there's something about, there's a kind of midline of the body, and when you cross over that midline, it helps balance out the left and right of the brain. And somehow when I'm ironing, I'm not saying I want all your ironing, but when I'm doing my own, somehow, I don't know if it's the crease is becoming flat, or I don't know what it is, or it kind of, the orderliness of folding the clothes, and somehow that really helps me. So sometimes what I do is, if I'm feeling a bit, I just think, let me go do a bit of ironing, and it really helps me to kind of balance. So I think it's stepping away from what you're doing, because if you just carry on what you're doing, you're going to feel more and more overwhelmed. And sometimes going to talk to someone about it, unless they're very wise and they help you look at your own thoughts about it, it can just add to it. So it's doing something that pleases you, it gets you on a different track. That's the thought. Not so easy. When you've got to the level of overwhelm, you've already gone quite far off. That's the hard thing, to admit to yourself you've already gone quite far away from your own peace. And that overwhelm is not because of all the situations. The overwhelm is that you've invested a lot of thoughts in that overwhelm. That's not always so easy to accept. That it's not the situations, it's what I've thought about them that's caused the overwhelm. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure Ganesh has taken some tips and everyone else from that. Not another question, just saying beautiful, amazing lesson from you, Sister Margaret. So inspiring and uplifting. Om Shanti.
Thank you. But I'm only sharing really what others have helped me learn and what life's taught me. And I think life is such an amazing thing that it teaches us so many amazing things. And that's why, you know, when we see life as a friend rather than the enemy, I think I went through many years, you know, in my 20s and really almost thinking life was against me. And because I was thinking life is against me, it's almost like I was attracting things that made me think more that life was against me. And when I shifted to life is for me, it really changes everything. And even when we're in this situation, you know, the one that I was talking about with one of my nephew, our slogan was, let's just deal with what is, and life is for us. And just having those little slogans really, really help. The other, going back to Ganesh's question, sometimes I have found, and there was a time in my life where I used to write a lot of thoughts were coming up that quite overwhelming. I used to write them down, a bit cathartic, just get it all out, because otherwise it's going around here. At least when you write it, it becomes on the page. And sometimes that's all you can do is just get it out. And then sometimes when you reflect on what you've written, you think, is that really true all the time? You can sort of think it's not. But writing, I felt is quite a gift or a good method if you really, and it might be that you scribble it down or something. And I think, you know, I remember one book talking about that it's not that people suddenly thought, let me write a great book. Often it was their challenges in life and they wrote to save themselves, and that eventually became something that got published. I mean, even Dickens was an insomniac, and you know, to cope with that, somebody who used to walk the streets of London, and that's how he got all his characters. So, you know, sometimes adversity brings great things out of us. But when we've gone into the overwhelm, that's kind of it's more of a thinking process, the overwhelm. Yes, I think it's time we could try a little bit of meditation before we finish.
Yes. Be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So very simply, let yourself sit comfortably. And we all know that we have this thinking mind, and this thinking mind can often be very externalized about people and places, and you know, this topic, what I have to do, or what I haven't done. What I didn't mention that today, but what I haven't done could be stressful as well, or what someone else hasn't done could be stressful as well. But let's step back behind that thinking mind. And just for a little while, just let it all be, no matter what's going on in my life. Let it all settle and accept it. Whatever it is, it is. And behind that thinking mind is your own peace. When the mind quietens down, you start to see the thoughts slow down. There's more gap between the thoughts. And there is your own peace. It's an experience of being. It's always been there. It is there and will always be there. This inner state of being. It's just that so often we're focused on the thoughts, and the thoughts that are about the external world. when we bring ourselves back behind that thinking mind and just sit in our own experience of peace. And we can say to ourselves, I'm okay. Life is okay. I am. Life is. But who am I? I am a being of peace. I am a being of love. I am a being of joy. This is the true state of being. It's not that I have to search for these in the human experience. This is my true natural state. And as I come back to my true natural state, I start to see that life is outside myself. And that the energy I bring to life from inside out is going to make all the difference. When we've tapped into this inner state of being, the most beautiful thing happens. It's almost like we can connect with the Supreme Being, being who's always in this higher state of peace, love, joy, bliss. As we connect with that higher level of energy, our being becomes empowered. The spirit becomes empowered by the Supreme Spirit. So it's not that we're trying to get empowered from life. We're getting empowered inside from a source that is eternal, that can never diminish, is always there, always available. And this brings a state of empowerment. And then as we come back into life, to all the different people and situations, we're coming from a state of empowerment rather than a state of depletion. And this is what makes the difference. I am a being of peace. This is the fundamental truth about the self. Thank you.